Sehr gern.
Also, grüß Gott miteinander, schön, dass ihr da seid. Ich freue mich jetzt besonders auf das Gespräch, weil Jock ist einer der Künstler, die ich selbst sehr, sehr mag, sehr verehre. Für mich ist er so, ich würde sagen, wirklich einer der spannendsten und abwechslungsreichsten Zeichner aktuell im Superheldenbereich. Er hat für Judge Dredd 2008 gearbeitet. Er hat den Green Arrow gemacht, wo es ja auch diesen tollen Sammelband aktuell bei Panini, bei uns auf dem Festival gibt. Seine Geschichte Green Arrow Year One ist die Grundlage für die Green Arrow Fernsehserie, die aktuell im Fernsehen läuft. Aber er hat auch bei fast nahezu allen Comic-Verfilmungen mitgearbeitet. Insofern glaube ich, wird das jetzt relativ spannend, wenn er uns was erzählt. So Jock, you told me that this is the only original you have from your time of 2000 AD. So,
yes, yeah.
So, how started your career with 2000 AD?
Yeah, hello everyone, by the way.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. Yes, I grew up reading 2000 AD, and for lots of people in the UK, 2000 AD was the comic that made them want to draw comics, you know, or write comics. And I was the same. I started reading it as a young teenager. Actually, I was a little bit late to it, but as soon as I picked up an issue, I wanted to draw comics, and I was lucky, and Judge Dredd was my favourite character, and I was lucky enough that my first work was working on Judge Dredd for 2000 AD.
How old were you when you started?
Well, actually, my very first commission was when I was 22, but then I didn't start regularly working until 5 years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 27.
27, yeah. Before then, I was, I did some Magic the Gathering. Do you have Magic the Gathering cards? Wizards of the Coast. Did a few bits and pieces, but then at 27 I got my first story from 2000 AD, a Judge Dredd story, and I've never been at work since, touch wood.
And you're still working for 2000 AD?
No, not really. I worked on the recent, I do work for film as well, concept design for film, and I worked on the recent Judge Dredd film.
I know it. On the DVD there's a talking panel with you after that. Yeah.
Oh right, yes, yeah. And 2000 AD put out a book of all of my work on the film, so I'm still in contact with them, but I'm not actually doing any comics work for 2000 AD.
But you made the storyboards for the conceptual design.
Yes, conceptual design, yeah, exactly, yeah. That came about. Has anyone seen the Dredd movie, by the way? Are you guys familiar with Dredd? You know, the film. When I heard that they were making that the Dredd movie was happening, I had just finished doing some concept work on another project, and I put one of the pieces of art that I had done just for fun online.
Okay.
Of how I thought the Dredd movie should look. And movie websites picked up my images and said that they were concept work from the new film, and I was
strange.
Oh no! And I emailed Jason at 2000 AD and said, Jason, I don't know what's happened, but my work is being, and I know it's not official. But two things came from that. One was that every single news website, all the big movie websites commented on the images, and they all really liked them, and they all wanted a good Judge Dredd movie.
Okay.
And then I got an email from one of the film's producers saying, "Can you call us, please?" And I was like, "Oh no, this could be really bad."
Yeah.
But they asked if I wanted to work on the film, so it came about by not just luck, but kind of luck that I just did some images and they liked them, and I ended up actually on the project, which is fantastic. And I've carried on working with Alex Garland, the writer of Dredd. We've recently there's a film called Ex Machina. Have you seen? I don't know whether that's out over here. There's an AI robot girl.
It's actually in the cinemas.
Yes.
It started some weeks ago.
Oh yes,
Right
now.
cinema.
Well, I helped design her the robot, and I'm working with Alex on his new film as well. So that's been great.
And what do you think about the Judge Dredd movie? You're happy with it?
Yeah. I knew. I mean, I'm a Dredd fan. You know,
like most British artists.
Yeah. You know, but I would still probably say he's my favourite comic character, just because it's tied up with nostalgia and being young and everything. He's still probably my favourite character. So when I went up for this meeting and Alex gave me the script to read, and they said, right, you read the script and we'll be back in 2 hours, kind of thing. So I had to sit in this room in the production company's office and read the script, and then they all came back in to sort of see what I thought, So if you put in that kind of position, what if it's really bad? and they all come back in, and you're like, But no, it was. And Alex is a very smart writer, very good writer. I thought it was, that they had budget limitations, so they had to tailor the story and the imagery, to within the building. It would have been nice to have seen a little bit more of the city, I think, but it was purely for budget reasons, but it was a tight, action thriller.
I guess it's a pretty good action movie.
Yeah.
It's a pity that it wasn't outside of the United Kingdom. It wasn't no success.
Unfortunately, no. It was.
I guess in the United Kingdom it worked.
It was number one, which actually no one was expecting. Alex emailed me when it was number one, and he just said, I can't believe it, and then. Conversely, when it came out in America and it didn't do very well, I got another email and he was saying, I feel like I've let everyone down.
It was in Germany the same, really. In Germany, I got some free tickets sent by the producer, and I could go with those free tickets to every cinema of my choice when they bring the Judge Red movie. But the problem is, after 1 week, they threw it out.
Right.
It was only 1 week in the cinemas in Germany.
No success.
It's really pity. Yeah. Okay. The one main problem is you have to be 18 to see it.
Yeah, sure.
And it's very hard and cruel.
Yeah.
So really,
it is violent. It's very
extremely violent. And they only had it for 1 week, and the movies had been started at 10 in the evening.
Yeah.
So really, in the first week, I said, I can't do that. And I said, okay, maybe next week. And then it was gone. So I had to wait for the Blu-ray and then watch it. Yeah, I heard your interview. Well, how long was your work at 2000 AD?
I worked for maybe about 2.5 or 3 years at 2000 AD, and my friend Andy Diggle, who's a writer now, was an editor at 2000 AD at the time, and he was the one to start giving me work.
Yeah.
And we did a story together for 2000 AD that he then he was keen to leave being an editor in comics and be a writer. Yeah. So we did a story together called Lenny Zero, which seemed to go down quite well with readers. And Will Dennis at DC Vertigo. And Andy was in contact with Will, and Will liked Lenny Zero. And then when Vertigo had The Losers in work, in preparation.
Work as well.
Oh, nearly.
No, nearly.
Because DC had seen my work with Andy on Lenny Zero, they suggested that I work on The Losers.
We'll see if you find this.
Here
we are.
Yes, that's 03. Yeah, so that's I started working in 2000 AD, roundabout.
This was your entrance with DC.
I did one issue of Hellblazer.
Okay.
Just one issue. But this was already in the works. Will just said you should do an issue of Hellblazer.
Okay.
Just to raise your profile slightly, and then we'll go with The Losers. But so I don't know how many of you know The Losers or the series, but again, it was me and Andy were unknown, in America. So we were very lucky that DC let us have our own series. It was arguably a risk, to give two unknown people. And for example, for a while, I wasn't going to be doing the covers. They were looking for a named cover artist, but then Will saw some of my sketches and he was like, "No, actually, I think you should do them." And we didn't really know what we were doing. It was our first American work. It's a very different type of comic to UK comics. 22 pages a month. but we were really hungry. You know, we were really we put a lot into it, and you know, thankfully, not only did people seem to like the comic, it was made into a film. It was, you know, it's arguably been a success. So that's
maybe you can explain a little bit the storyline of The Losers.
Yeah, sure.
It's published in Germany, but I know it's not
so
well known.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so The Losers, it's basically it's an action film on paper. It's about a team of ex-CIA special forces agents who are presumed dead. Their CIA handler tries to get them killed, but they're not dead. They've just gone kind of underground, and they try and get back at the CIA basically to clear their names so they can live happily ever after. But more than that, it was actually we just wanted to do the best action story that we possibly could. You know. Which is hard to do in comics actually. You know, when they offered it to me, I thought, right, am I the right guy for doing a slick action thing? I don't know, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to try and make it, you know, very good. I hope, you know, and I did lots of wide angles, lots of different, you know, extreme perspective in the artwork, just to try and give it sort of an extra dimension. And you know, like I say, thank goodness it worked out. So yeah.
I don't know if I told this maybe to you yesterday. A colleague of my wife, Losers, is his most biggest comic book he loves most.
Oh really?
And
wow.
The funny thing is, his name is Bird, and we call him Bird the Nerd.
Yeah.
And he cares very much in comic books, and for him, Losers is better than Neil Gaiman, whatever. He loves it. And the funny thing, one of his most favorite writers is Jason Aaron.
Yes.
And last year in Angoulême, where we met each other, I came with Gara and Jason Aaron, and he knew that before, that I will meet Gara and I will meet Jason. Yeah. So after that we had invited on his birthday party, and I came there, and he said, okay, Veronica already told me that you met Jason Aaron and Gara in Angoulême. Okay, don't say something to me. And I said, did she mention that I met Andy Diggle and Jock too? He said, I don't want to speak with you.
Oh wow.
Go out.
Wow. Well, say hello from me.
Okay, I will do that. So really, I think Losers is a great book. Really.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's 12 years ago. Wow. Enough time has passed that I can be a bit more objective about it. I mean, you know, it's all I can see is that it's old artwork, so I look at it and I'm sort of a bit critical or whatever. But actually, what I get from it is, you know, I'm very proud of the series because it was our first thing, and because there was so much that could have gone wrong, but actually, you know, it all went pretty good.
And what do you think about the movie? How was the process? I guess it has a great cast.
Oh, amazing cast. Yeah. Amazing cast, and they all looked exactly like the characters.
Yes. So is Aldana, who has been in Avatar.
Chris Evans, who's
actually Captain America. The guy who played the comedian, and
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Idris Elba, who's awesome. Oscar Haneda, who's a Spanish actor, and Columbus Shaw played Pooch. But yeah, there were. This film was made just after, a year or two after Sin City came out in the cinema, and I think when Sin City became a success, Hollywood was more happy to stick to the source material. Yeah. So, for example, with The Losers, Jensen, which he's only really little on this image, but he's down there with his little round glasses and blonde hair, and this one here, this one.
This one.
Is he there? No, he's not there. Yeah, the guy with blonde hair, bottom left. Like he wears these little round glasses, but in the comic I also gave him a small beard and some long sight, you know, just because it was visually striking. And we visited the Losers set in Puerto Rico.
Have you met the actors?
Well, so we visited the set. I didn't know how closely they were going to stick to the comic. and we were talking to Zoe Saldana, and then she shouts Jensen, and I turn around, and my character that had only existed in my mind walks towards me and puts his arm out, and he had the same facial hair.
This was
Chris Evans, yeah, the same glasses, everything, and it was so surreal. It was a very surreal moment to have something that only only existed in your mind, really, even though I was drawing the comic, but just to have a character walk towards you, and he was just exactly like the character from the comic. It was great. Yeah, and they were all, we met them all. We hung out for a couple of days. The cast was amazing. Really, really amazing. Yeah, and the film was good. The film's really enjoyable. Like what I like about the film actually is the cast, and they all got on very, very well. Yeah. So there's lots of funny moments in the film where you can tell they're all bouncing off each other. But it's a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be. Like the comic isn't Shakespeare, but it's hopefully tense, and the action sequences I think have jeopardy. Yeah. And in the film it was a little bit lighter, and that's fine. It is what it is. But it's an amazing experience to have something that you've drawn, to walk into a cinema, see it on the screen. It's not perfect, and it's not how I may have exactly hoped a film of the comic might be, but it was a good experience.
One other thing is that we can find lots of covers of you, I guess. When I see at your work, I think you're not just a comic book artist. Really, I think it's so graphical, so artwork style. Yeah. So really, I love your covers much more than your comic books. I think you're going much more wider with that. And really, one thing is I'm very happy with your sculpt covers. Really,
thank you.
This is one of my most favorite works.
Wow. I've always wanted to make comics that you could give to anyone. Yeah. That you don't have to be a comics fan, hopefully, to enjoy it. And actually, with the Losers, that was our goal. If we went and just handed this to someone in the street that never read a comic, maybe they'd look at it and go, "Oh, yeah, no, I get this. This is, you don't have to know 25 years of superhero kind of backstory." So I've always looked to other things for inspiration, magazines, film, design, and working on covers is I love playing with design.
Yeah. I guess this will, you can see it when you find comic books with your covers. Everything is so designed, really. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, but I think sort of 80-90% of comic covers all look the same. Yeah. If you see a walk into a comic shop, it's just like a visual noise. They're just all kind of the same. So if you suddenly, this isn't the best example because there's quite a few elements in there, but if you suddenly have some negative space, a big area of flat colour, and you walk into a shop on the shelf, that area, like our eyes are actually very lazy, and they like resting on flat areas of colour as opposed to noise. And if you know that and you can play with that, then suddenly your covers are going to pop on the shelf. They're going to stand out. And I feel like certainly working on the more alternative, your comics, things like Scalped or The Losers, which aren't really mainstream comics, if you can make someone kind of at least just turn their head and look at it and wonder what, then I feel like that's your job is done. To be eye-catching. So after The Losers, you got the job with the covers of Scalped?
Scalped, it was the same editor, Will Dennis at Vertigo, who is still a great friend, and we've worked together a lot. And after The Losers finished, he was working on this comic, and I designed the logo as well. Actually, I did the logo and the covers. And Scalped, I don't know again how many of you have read Scalped, but
it isn't published in Germany.
Is it not?
Really, it's a pity. I'm talking so much with Panini because really I think it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie or Robert Rodriguez movie. It's a great comic book.
It's but it's also, I think it's very rich. Jason's writing is wonderful, and Gera's artwork is wonderful, and on reflection, I'm so proud to have done the covers for what I think is one of the best comics that there's ever been. So
I think so. Also auch hier können wir ein klein bisschen Werbung noch machen. Geht alle zum Panini-Stand und fragt mal, wann Sculpt endlich mal in Deutsch veröffentlicht wird. Das ist wirklich ein Wahnsinns-Comic. Ja. Aber ihr müsst den auch nicht auf Deutsch lesen, also ihr könnt das über Amazon relativ gut bestellen. Ja, und das ist wirklich... Das
oder über den örtlichen Comicladen.
Oder über den örtlichen Comicladen, auch alles okay, genau. Das Vorherige schneiden wir raus damit.
Ja, bitte.
Leute schindern. Ja. Entschuldigung, ja. Irgendwo findet man den. Man kriegt den gut. Ja. Und das ist wirklich ein Wahnsinns-Comic, spielt im Reservoir, ist so eine Mischung aus wirklich, ja, wie das amerikanische Leben der Indianer ist. Es ist aber auch irgendwo ein Western, ein Krimi, es sind wahnsinnige Zeitsprünge drin, die hin und her gehen und das ist ja eine extrem spannende Geschichte. Ja. Und das, ich sage also auch sehr brutal, sehr gewalttätig. Ja, ich sage, es ist irgendwie wie ein Quentin Tarantino-Film oder ein Robert Rodriguez-Film, der auf Papier halt irgendwie so vor allem der fliegt. Also insofern muss ich sagen, klar, wir machen auch Werbung für Jock. Losers ist auch ein tolles Ding, aber Sculpt solltet ihr auch lesen. Ja, macht Sinn. Ja. I made a little bit promotion for Sculpt because it isn't published in Germany. Yeah. So Panini, when they made advertise that they said Jock is coming to Munich, they said, okay, Jock, the artist of Wolverine Max,
Wow,
which for me isn't your most important work, but yeah.
But yeah, the Wolverine Max was just a run of covers, which was 12 covers. I enjoy drawing from Wolverine as well. I think he suits my style. And this is when I started getting a little bit more. But this is actually a very loose drawing. You know, it's not. It's quite loose and that's I'm really interested in that when you can have a really loose sketchy drawing but it's still the image is very strong and I started playing around with those ideas with Wolverine Max and luckily my editor Janine was happy for me to play around. Yeah, that's what you want. You know, when you work on any project you want to be able to play around with it, you know, to not feel like you have to sort of fit into this idea or that idea. You want to try, well, I do anyway. I want to try things and see, you know, if different ideas work. And Wolverine Max, yeah, they were just really enjoyable to do. But I didn't know that that's what I was known for.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
If I had done the advertising, I would have said, okay, the artist of Batman Black Mirror, which might be.
Do Panini publish that, or does someone
else
publish that?
They had, but it sold out, and
they
didn't bring it back. And I guess the thing is also they have more Batman artists here, so they think, okay, now we have a Wolverine artist here. But for me, the artwork is great, but no Wolverine artist for me. More Judge Dredd or Batman.
Though I did also do, I wrote and drew a Wolverine story for Marvel as well, which was Savage Wolverine. Okay. I did a 3-issue, I don't think it will be on my website, I've got the images, but that was a year or two ago, and I actually wrote that as well. Okay. So, yeah.
So I guess this is also just cover work?
Yes, Daredevil.
Also cover work?
Yeah.
I guess the comic book is done by Howard Chaykin, wasn't it?
That's right, that's right.
It's strange to see Bruce Willis with hair.
This was Die Hard Year 1, it was set in the 1970s, so I had to somehow get Bruce Willis hair.
So what's picked?
This was just one cover actually, a friend's image comic, Ben McCall. That's not mine.
That is not mine. Okay,
so
we'll take that one. This is one of my most favorite covers, really. I think one of the best comic book covers I've seen in the last 5 years.
Thank you. We were talking about this last night. Actually, I now have DC have printed this on Converse shoes, on swimming costumes, T-shirts, hats, glasses. Plastic glasses, stickers, posters, something else. Yeah, I could literally go to work every day wearing,
wearing your
just like, from top to toe. But this was a cover from the Black Mirror, a storyline of Batman the Black Mirror, which I did with writer Scott Snyder, who I've worked with more since as well. Our current project is Witches, which I guess isn't out in German just yet. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was one. This was one of those covers that when I sent it in, I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
really think it was anything special,
Okay.
and I sent it to my editor, and I said, oh, you know, this is where I'm at. What do you think? And my email reply was, no, I think I said, how does it look? And he replied, like the best cover I've ever seen. I was like, oh, okay, right, that's fine. Because I was thinking about maybe sort of, I thought it was maybe a bit boring. It's just a head. I thought, should I try and crop it interestingly, like, you know, just show this area or that? And
But I guess the betting is the way you use the bets, really. That's pretty good.
but sometimes when you work on something for you know a little while, you become slightly blind to what someone else might get from it straight away. You know, so I was confident that the concept was okay, but I did wonder whether it was just a bit boring. And of course, now on reflection, it's clearly not, because it's proved a very, very popular image. I've seen so many tattoos of this, by the way. Like, I've seen a photo, someone had their whole back, you know, everything. I hope you're not in the audience, because I was going to say, it doesn't look like good. I feel slightly guilty that I've sort of contributed to someone's bad life decision by having
but you could have chosen something worse.
I know,
Maybe,
yeah, sure, I know, of course.
Maybe I can, after that show, I can show you a friend of mine who is tattooed on the whole body, I guess.
Yeah.
This would have been better than
Right,
things he had on his body.
Yeah, I've seen many. There's a guy with it there as well. There's thighs. There's lots of arms. You know, I've met people who've sort of had it tattooed, and they ask me to sign their arm, and then they have my signature tattooed.
And then also tattooed.
You know,
you should take a knife for the signature.
Well, they, by the way, you know, they don't tell you when you sign. You think, oh yeah, I'll sign your arm, you know, and then say, I'm going to go get that tattooed. Wow. So yeah, you know, it's proven a very popular image, and thank you. I'm glad you like it.
But yeah, I think this is a good point to speak on Batman Black Mirror, who is, I guess, a very big success in the United States. It sold very much.
Yeah.
Lots of books, and I think for me it's one very interesting story, because it's no typical Batman story.
Yeah.
For me it's more like a crime novel, something, a mixture between crime and horror novel. Yeah. And yeah, one friend of mine, after he had written, after he read Black Mirror, he wrote me a text message, and he said, "You have to go to the booth, you have to buy this comic book, this is the best Batman story I've read after Killing Joke." Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so Batman the Black Mirror was Scott Snyder's first mainstream comics work, and he's still writing Batman today. He's proven a very popular writer because he's a very good writer. But the Black Mirror, it's funny because actually you can't, you never really know what will be a success. You know, you can take projects, or you can, you know, some projects you think are going to be more successful maybe aren't, and Black Mirror was definitely a surprise. You know, I actually got a call from Scott. I'd never spoken to him before, and my phone rang, and it was Scott, and I knew who he was, obviously, and I loved American Vampire for Vertigo, but and he just told me this story and asked if I was interested in drawing it, and I just had a very good feeling about him. You know, I tend to go with my gut feeling when I'm choosing work. You know, it's because I think for this kind of work, or it's creative work, if your instincts are normally pretty good. And I just had a really good feeling about him anyway. And but the story itself was nothing more than really a random 11-12 part run on detective, you know, and none of us thought it was going to be
that it will be a book.
It was just, we were just, you know, telling a story. But you know, Scott's such a good writer, and even to begin with, Francesco Francavilla, who does to begin with the backup stories and the back of the issue, but then that stopped, and then he would fill in issues, but then you realise Scott was weaving this story, you know, throughout the whole thing.
When there had been two artists who worked on this storyline, you and Francesco. Have you seen his artwork, or did you work completely separate and was put together?
One other interesting thing is that this was probably the most harmonious team that I've ever worked with in some ways, because basically what I mean by that is that everyone, so that's the editor, the assistant editor, the writer, me, Francesco, the colorist, everyone would send everything they did to everyone.
Okay.
You do sometimes find that there's separation, and you also speak to the writer, but maybe there are.
Everybody just sees that and does his job.
This was very harmonious and very we were all very aware of what everyone else was doing.
Okay.
Which I think helps.
That's good.
Yeah.
That looks. Explains the look of the book.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so good working.
Yeah.
It fits together.
Good. Yeah. And it was. As people would start coming up to me at conventions saying this is my favourite Batman story. I'm thinking, really? Are you sure? But my point really is that we're clearly something hit and Scott has gone on to be incredibly successful writing the main Batman story. But yeah, it was a really nice time because as I say, Scott's rise has been huge, and this was actually the first baby steps really.
And this was for you the first time you did Batman?
No, I had done some Batman covers actually. When I was that was from when I was working on the Losers, when I was doing very design-led covers, and the art director of DC liked my covers, so he said, "Do you want to do some Batman covers?" So, but it was my first Batman story.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, these are all from Black Mirror.
This is also, we talked about this yesterday. This is also one thing I like very much. You made a drawing for the great Batman story, Batman Year One.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way you're doing it. Like it's an architectural plan, and you put inside the Batman storyline. And I think this is for me one of the key moments of Batman Year One, when Batman is in the building, and the way you treat it on the point. It's pretty good. So how did you get this job? What was the idea for that?
So this is there's a company in America called Mondo, and they do silkscreen prints. They make beautiful prints. They're normally 24 by 36. They're big prints, beautifully screen printed by DNL Screen Printing in Seattle. And they do official posters for a lot of cult movies from years gone by, but also new movies as well. So they started out doing, I've done posters for them for things like Halloween and The Thing, old cult movies, but now they do most of the big movies that come out, the genre movies will have a Mondo poster. And they had a gallery show celebrating Batman's 75th anniversary, so they had a license to do Batman, and so they asked me, do I want to do a Batman story? Okay. And I tried some designs for Killing Joke, and I don't think we were allowed to do Dark Knight Returns. That was kind of like, no, we don't do that, but Year One was okay. So this is a silkscreen print that went on sale at the gallery, and I love Year One is probably my favourite Batman story. So I'm glad you like the idea, because I didn't want to do an image for Batman Year One unless there was a good idea. By that I mean a visual idea, and the architect drawing was the moment I kind of I sort of thought, okay, maybe we can do this. So yeah.
So
Green Arrow.
After Batman Year One, we have to talk about Green
Arrow Year One. Which I mean, again, that was me and Andy Diggle that wrote the Losers. After doing the Losers, this was mainstream, DC Universe debut, I guess. But neither of us are big superhero guys, so we try to think of somehow telling the kind of story we wanted to tell, which was a sort of action, gritty action movie using one of their characters.
So it was your idea to do this, or did DC ask you for that?
It would have been either Andy or DC.
Okay, Andy and DC.
Yeah. Which way round, I'm not sure. But I do know that when he had the meet at New York Comic Con about it, I just went along because they probably wouldn't have given me the artwork, because they would have probably chosen some superhero guy, you know. But I just went with Andy and Dan, the head editor, said, oh, and you want Jock to draw it? And we just went, yeah, you know. So we kind of we made sure that it was me and Andy doing the story. And the only all we had to do was on the last page make sure that Green Arrow was in his costume. We had to get him to this point, you know. And then that becomes a superhero, and someone else can do that. But if we just get into that point, and so the story is it's basically a you know sort of realistic survival action story. But again, the real moment of when something nice that came from this was the Arrow. I don't know whether you've seen the Arrow TV series, but
it's it's in Germany also.
And the producers, if you watch the extras on that, the producers said we didn't know how to do an Arrow TV show until we read Green Arrow Year 1. And so this is
even in the credits, you got a credit on the.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Really, when you see after in the credits, they say based on
No.
Green Arrow Year 1 by Andy Diggle and Jock.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's in. You have to watch the TV series.
I did. I did buy the box set. You know, I think I should check this out, but because I got sent some screenshots when he's on the island.
Really,
you know.
And the funny thing is. They named one of the characters
Diggle,
after Andy.
yes,
His name is.
Well,
Diggle.
so there's a character called Diggle, and that's Andy. But the character in the TV series is called John Diggle. Andy actually has a brother called John.
Oh, that's funny.
That's
really funny.
Yeah, but they didn't know that obviously. But now obviously Andy's brother is kind of, you know.
So they named him after Andy's brother. That's
yes.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so Green Arrow Year 1 it's just an example of you know, if you're lucky in comics, I think you're able to sort of do your own thing, you know, so maybe approach projects in an interesting, unique way, or at least that's what I try and do, you know. But that doesn't always work, you know. That can also lead you down a different path, and so I feel very lucky that I've been able to work on these big characters like Batman or Green Arrow, but also hopefully they have, you know, they feel like our comic, you know.
I guess you made a good interpretation for Green Arrow.
Oh, well,
when you think today on Green Arrow, you have to read this book, I guess. Yeah. So.
Wow,
that's
amazing.
Part of the Green Arrow family.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know, that's again, you know, I can't really think like that or be aware like that, you know. I still just have to approach each project and do the very best I can, and you know, so that's.
And so, going back from the Green Arrow TV series, you are working also very much in movies. I think you worked on Batman Begins. You made some designs for that.
Yes. That was through DC. Christopher Nolan, the director, was keen to have some interpretations of Batman from the comic artists. So we weren't shown the suit, we weren't shown the Batmobile. This was just about they said, if Batman was a real person, what would he look like? And that was all they said, and then we could just do as many drawings as we wanted of a realistic, you know, a guy in a suit on rooftops and whatever. So yes, and then I think they I didn't actually do specific concept work for the film. That I was part of. You know, they would have then given those images to Christopher, and you know, he would have. But there is one shot actually in Batman Begins which is exactly the same as
one shot they took from your drawings.
Well, who knows, but it looks like it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you just describe it?
Yeah, it's looking up. I actually used the art again for a Batman cover. It's looking up in between buildings. It's a classic. It's a classic shot actually. You know, it's not mine, but you know, it's looking up with the fire escape. You know, and you look up in between the buildings, and that shot is in Batman Begins. Right. Just when he's hanging the guy off the.
Yeah.
Swear to me. You know, that bit, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah, and also through Mondo, I did the poster for The Dark Knight Rises, well, the whole trilogy actually, which Warner Brothers released at San Diego a couple of years ago, and I've done some images for the Blu-rays as well. So.
But you have lots of more movie work.
Yeah.
I guess you worked on the X-Men movie?
Yeah, I did some costume design. Yeah, so I worked on a film called Battleship. I don't know whether you had that.
It wasn't a big success, but a good cast, but a bad movie.
It is what it is, but it was a fantastic experience for me. I knew the director. The director was actually going to be doing The Losers, to be honest, and that's how I met him. But when I came on board, I did 6 months on Battleship, and I was working with guys from, I don't know whether you guys know ILM and Weta, the special effects companies that did Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and I was working with they hired 11 illustrators, and there were all these top guys, and I had done very little film work, and I just had to try and step up, step up my game. It's like, okay, well. And then in the end, it was just me and one other guy from ILM designing all the alien stuff. So it was a fantastic experience. Actually,
I have to look again on the movie. Maybe give him a second chance.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe one of the reasons why you didn't enjoy it was because
Rihanna was in it.
Rihanna was in it. When I was working on it, there was no script. Well, there was, but it was constantly changing. And
I guess. When you see the movie, you think there was really no script.
Well, things that I drew because it was very free and things were changing. That gave me space to try things as I was drawing. And for a while, things that I would draw would end up in the script. Just because Pete, the director, liked the image. Liked the imagery. So even though it's not an ideal way to make a film, for me that was quite cool to. Be working on a project of that scale with the best people in the world, because it was such an expensive movie, and then I did some costume design on that, and then through knowing the costume designer, she then next worked on X-Men and G.I. Joe as well, and called me for.
You worked on the second G.I. Joe?
Yes, yeah, and just a week or two though on those, but just.
So you made the costume for The Rock?
But X-Men. I did it with my friend Lee Garbett, actually, who draws Marvel comics. We worked together for a couple of weeks. He's a big X-Men fan, so I said, "Do you want to come and help me with this? Because I'm not as well versed with X-Men, But Colossus in that movie is completely ours, and we had some elements of Wolverine and Professor X as well, Xavier. Those some of his stuff. You find when you work on these big projects that actually. You might do an image and they might take, the shoulder, and we like that, and it's so, it's not so much that you do an image and then that is what's on the screen, that it might have the feel of what you've done, but then the costume designer who actually has to build the thing, it might change, in small ways, but yeah. I mean, I enjoy it. I like comics and I like movies, and I really enjoy working on film as well.
So I guess it's a good mixture.
Yes.
So what are your actual projects?
Right now, so Witches, which should be coming out in Germany, I think.
I'm not so sure that even doesn't publish Scott. Yeah. It will be there.
Yeah,
of course.
Scott. I've got a feeling Scott Snyder's name might help actually.
Scott Snyder's name.
So Witches is Scott that I did the Batman story with. It's a horror comic basically that we published through Image Comics. It's quite dark. It's a very personal. Scott's writing in it is very personal, and it deals with a lot of his anxieties and fears, and that makes the book actually quite emotional, I think. That's already been bought as a movie as well. We're working with Plan B, Brad Pitt's company, and we're both executive producers on that, so that's quite exciting. I'm doing another issue of Batman with Scott next, and then I get back to the next arc of Witches. Okay. Yeah.
So Witches is your
major
theme, actually?
Yeah, that's kind of for the next 2 or 3 years, that's what I will be doing, yeah.
Many thanks, great.
Great, thank you.
Here. Other questions in the audience, maybe?
Yeah. Any questions? Any questions or anything? Yes.
Where does the name Jock come from?
I can't tell you. It's a nickname that stuck.
From school?
From school, and then when I was younger with a portfolio under my arm, going to conventions and meeting editors, and then they'd say, "You wouldn't go away," and then I'd go back the next year, and I'd say, "Oh, hello, I'm Jock," and they were like, "Oh, I remember you," And when I was starting out, it was a very memorable name, so it worked. Now but it just is what it is, So it's just a nickname that I used to sign my drawings with, so I just stuck with it.
But I have a good story to that too, because last year when we met in Angoulême, and we had been in this pool bar, Gara was outside of the pool bar, and he tried to explain to you and Andy Diggle how to draw horses.
Horses, yeah.
And it was very, very lively. Yeah. And there was one friend from Andy Diggle, and after he explained you how to draw horses, she said, "Okay, now his name is not Jock, he's Jockey." Okay, ja, vielen Dank. Schön, dass ihr hierher gekommen seid zu dem Vortrag. Ja, es gibt trotzdem auch drüben noch einige tolle Sachen. Also Comicfestival geht heute noch sicherlich bis 18 Uhr weiter. Genießt es. Ihr könnt natürlich auch hier bleiben und noch ein bisschen was trinken. Das ist auch nicht so blöd bei dem Wetter. Und ja, danke und schönen Sonntag noch.
Thank you for coming.